What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Nicole Banister, aka NIKKI BANZ, coming to you live from Los Angeles, California. Today I'm interviewing Seen Palestine right here on NIKKI BANZ Live! Hey, what's up, everybody? It is an absolute pleasure to have all of you here today, and I am telling you, you are gonna be ready for a jam-packed, super intense, super urgent, super important show today. As you know, your girl NIKKI BANZ brought back my favorite interview series, NIKKI BANZ Live. I brought it back for the month of September to do a little September special. And there are so many things that are special about this month. But one of the things that is incredibly important about this month in particular is that this is the month when the Seen TV and the Seen Palestine teams are going to be doing a film festival right here in Hollywood, Beverly Hills, in Los Angeles, California, right? The home to some of the greatest actors and creatives in the world. They are bringing their Palestine Film Festival here to Los Angeles, California, and we want to tell you all about it. And not only are we going to be talking to you today about this incredible up-and-coming film festival, we're going to be talking to the Seen Palestine team about the reality of what's happening on the ground in Gaza and in Palestine. We're going to talk about the realities of global solidarity and global allyship between what's happening in Palestine, what's happening in Sudan, what's happening in Guam, what's happening in Congo, right? We know that our collective struggle for liberation is exactly that. It is collective. And we are so excited to be talking to the team from Seen TV and Seen Palestine in particular, who are building the world's largest human experience library. The Seen team are storytellers at their finest. They are collecting stories on the ground from people all over the world, and in Palestine in particular, to give you real live accounts of what is happening on the day-to-day basis in places in crises like Palestine. So I am so incredibly excited to have you all here today. Welcome to NIKKI BANZ Live, your favorite interview series where I am bringing you exclusive conversations with some of the most dynamic, interesting, and creative people across the globe. Whether they're actors, rappers, content creators, or activists, you're gonna find them all here on NIKKI BANZ Live. I'm about to bring the Seen team on right now. I'm going to be speaking to Xan Oser. Xan is the COO, the Chief Operating Officer of Seen TV, and going to be talking to us about what Seen Palestine has been doing, the incredible stories that they've been telling from Palestine, and what to expect for their upcoming film festival, literally happening 1 week from today here in Los Angeles. So if y'all are in LA right now, my people in LA, and y'all gotta tell me in the chat, where are y'all all coming from? We got people from the US, we got people from South Africa, do we have people from Uzbekistan, people from India, people from Palestine? Where y'all coming in from? Let me know where y'all coming in from in the comments right now. I want to know. But 1 week from today, if you're here in LA, you can join us at the Seen Palestine Film Festival. All right? But don't worry, we're going to talk all about it. All right, party people. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it. I'm going to bring the team on right now and let's have a conversation. The Seen TV team. We're going to talk about Palestine. We're going to talk about the film festival. Let's get it. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Hello.
NIKKI BANZ, how are you? It's so good to see you. How are you?
Oh my gosh. It is so good to see you. How are you, Xan?
I am doing fantastic. I miss seeing you in Cape Town. I miss hanging out with you. It's so good to see you, and I so appreciate you having me on. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Oh my gosh, the feeling is absolutely mutual. I cannot believe that we had the chance to meet in Cape Town while we were both there, and we're about to meet again here in Los Angeles, sunny Southern California, as we continue this film festival about Palestine. It is so cool.
I can't wait, NIKKI. I'm going to be there next week. As you mentioned, we'll be there next week for the Seen Palestine Film Festival. So excited to see you. So excited to catch up in person as well. So thanks again for having me on.
Oh my Gosh, absolutely. So let me just break it down for everybody who's tuning in right now. I am joined by the one and only Xan Oser. Xan is the COO, the Chief Operating Officer of Seen TV, the same organization that runs Seen Palestine. And this is one of the world's largest libraries of human experience, telling the stories of people on the ground all over the world with a specific emphasis for the Seen Palestine team on telling the stories coming out of Gaza, coming out of Palestine right now during this impending crisis. And so, Xan, it is truly an honor to have you here, and what a privilege to be able to amplify your story of what you guys are doing at Seen and Seen Palestine, and to amplify the stories of all of the Palestinians. So thank you for the work that you're doing, and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Nikki. Thanks for recognizing that. I mean, it's an honor for us to be able to do that as well. It's something that we're incredibly passionate about. Nick, I can tell you a little bit about Seen TV overall, and then how that even feeds into what we do and our focus on Seen Palestine. So, Seen TV is a media tech company with over 8 million subscribers. We build tools. Yeah, I love it. We build tools that guide everyday people through the storytelling process. So we enable citizens to create journalism shows and actually be able to tell their own lived experience about something that's happened in their life, right? So our shows include Seen Health, which is focused on physical health conditions and how people survive them. Seen Minds, which is a mental health show, and Seen Survivors, which tells the stories of survivors of, say, assault or domestic violence. We also have international shows, which are dedicated to important topics and global topics such as Palestine. And the core of all of this is really highlighting and being able to surface how we can enable and showcase people to tell their own lived experience and share their own lived experience through storytelling. So that's the core of what we do, is really, really enabling marginalized communities to be able to show and share with the world their own personal beliefs and stories.
You know what? Something that you said just really resonated so deeply with me. And it's that idea of allowing regular people, right? Citizen journalists to share their own stories. And, you know, that might not seem like such a radical concept to those of us who are regularly on social media, following people, documenting their lives. But the reality is that that's really not the stories that are being told in traditional media. So why is it so important for the Seen team to give a platform for everyday people to be able to tell their real stories and their lived experiences?
You hit it on the head. I mean, these are stories that aren't typically told within traditional media, or are being totally overlooked. And so we have an opportunity to not share necessarily a perspective from our voice, but actually enable others to tell and share their lived experience with the world. So these are actual lived experiences. This is not, you know, our organization providing and sharing out our perspective. It's, hey, let's actually hear from people on the ground, actually experiencing and living through these things. And so I think that's the core of what we think the future of media actually entails. It's how do we enable other people to share their story from their perspective and actually build empathy and understanding. And that's the core of our mission. That's the mission of our entire organization, which is how do we build a more understanding and empathetic world? And we believe that storytelling is the single most powerful thing that can enable that. So that's at the core of what we do. But it's also why we're called Seen, right? Because we make people feel seen, right? We're highlighting and actually enabling people to feel seen, which are particularly communities that are overlooked by traditional media. So that's the story behind our mission. That's the story behind why we're called Seen and who we are. That's why.
I absolutely love this idea of tying back, you know, the title of the organization and the brand Seen back to that critical thing of being seen, of having that representation. And we know that representation is so critical, because if you can't see people who look like you, who are experiencing something similar as you, or if you can't see people experiencing something completely different from you halfway across the world, you'll never really understand. And so it is those firsthand experiences and account that make all the difference.
You nailed it on the head. I mean, the other piece of this is, like, we talk a lot about this internally within our team, which is like the stories that are being told, we actually can show that we're all very similar. We're similar. We're more similar than our differences, right? And so I think that's a big piece of what we try to show as well, is like these stories and the way that traditional media may frame something isn't necessarily what's actually being experienced by us as a human race. And also more broadly that we're all more alike than we are different. And so I think if we can share that story and give people that perspective, we talk a lot about if we can just have someone say, I didn't think about it that way before. Just simply that mindset is a huge win for us. And so that's what we're after is like how do we enable people to build a more empathetic and understanding world? And we think storytelling can really do that.
Absolutely. And I want to just give a quick shout out. I see that Ahmad has joined the chat here, one of the superstars of the Seen Palestine Film Festival. He said, "Good luck, Habibi." So
Habibi.
it's so exciting.
Thank you, Habibi. It's good to have you on, Ahmed. It's good to have you here.
And we're going to be talking all about Ahmed and Ahmed Alive, the incredibly powerful documentary series documenting Ahmed's journey in Palestine and his citizen journalism experience. We're going to get into that in all of a moment, but I just want to touch on one more thing about the Seen platform and the Seen experience before we start talking Palestine in particular, which, you know, if you're here right now on this live, you're watching the rerun on YouTube, you know we're going to talk about Palestine, so don't worry, we're getting to that. But you mentioned about how, you know, just changing someone's perspective just a little bit can be so important and can be so critical. And you particularly mentioned that Seen is telling the stories of marginalized communities, right? You talked about, you know, whether it's health stories, people experiencing challenging health scenarios, or people who are survivors of assault or domestic abuse. You know, why do we need to tell those stories in particular? Why is it not just sort of like the happy-go-lucky everyday stories? Why are we telling stories about the people who are more marginalized than others?
Because typically those communities are not covered by traditional media, right? Like a lot of these stories are totally missed. And that's like the majority of the population of the world. And so the reason we cover this is because traditional media often overlooks these communities. And so we feel we have a responsibility to actually enable others to tell their story and have a voice, have a platform where their stories can be heard, but also, again, ensure that we also can realize that we're, again, all more alike than we are different. And so I think that's the big piece of it. We just feel a responsibility that these stories need to be told and they need to be heard. But more than anything, I think there's just a lack of that platform for people to be able to tell their own story, to share from their own perspective versus having another traditional media company share it from their perspective and try to cover it from maybe someone that isn't as educated on the topic, maybe has no experience and personal experience actually living through that specific challenge or whatever that may be. And so I think we talk a lot about creating the most diverse media company in the world. And we currently have that. And I think that's the big piece that we're seeing is missing in traditional media today is that there's a lack of diversity in newsrooms. And that lack of diversity does not translate into the stories that are being told globally. And there's huge topics that are being missed. When what that means is like tons of people's stories are being totally missed and misunderstood. So I think that's what ties into it for me, Nikki, and for us, for Seen, is building that diversity enables and ensures that the stories are being told correctly and that they're being heard correctly.
Absolutely. You know, Xan, one of the reasons why I personally have been so drawn to Seen ever since I met your founder, Yusuf Omar, in Dubai a couple of years ago. And shout out to Yusuf. I think he just came on the live. So good to see you. Happy to have you here. You know, but one of the things that immediately appealed to me is the fact that Seen is unapologetic about telling stories that are not being told anywhere else. Diversity is not just a buzzword at Seen. Diversity is an integral part of the stories that you're trying to tell, because the reality is that, you know, we do come from these experiences and these backgrounds where some voices are amplified more than others. And, you know, from personal experience as a mixed Black American, Iranian, woman of color. It's not often that my story is being told on major platforms. And everyone has different intersectional identities that they can identify with, and that they can say, I'm not seeing my story of this health challenge on anywhere, on any media, on any TV, on any platform, right? I'm not seeing this particular story of me and my people from this country on this platform, right? And Seen is going out of its way to make sure that these are the stories that are being told. And I think that's just so important. And, you know, in 2024, that should be the norm. Okay, that should be the norm.
It should be. And it still isn't. It still isn't, Nikki, right? And that's the challenge that we see. And we see that there's that opportunity to be able to, again, provide a way for people to understand how to tell their story and share that with the world. And we talk a lot about that, is that telling your story is hard. How to tell a story is really, really hard. So we talk a lot about this, is like, how can we help citizens and guide them through the storytelling process so that we enable and empower you with the tools and the knowledge on how to tell your story. And so, yeah, it's a huge thing that we are literally dedicating our entire lives to, is enabling marginalized communities to tell their stories so that they are seen, that their stories are heard, and that these topics are really understood, because they're just not today. And so that's the core of what we're after.
Absolutely. And that's just so powerful, honestly. And I'm seeing people literally in the chat here right now on the Instagram Live saying, thank you for telling the story of me and my daughter, right? There are people on here who literally feel seen, whose voices have literally been heard because Seen gave them a platform and the tools to be able to tell that story in a way that's compelling, in a way that people can easily understand, no matter what their background is, no matter what language they speak, right? And so these stories are really transcending borders. And when we talk about what's happening in Palestine right now, in particular, getting the narratives and the voices and the stories of the Palestinian people out across borders is so critical. So can you talk to us, Xan, a little bit about why Seen TV decided to start Seen Palestine, and why this is such an important moment and pivot for the Seen team, and really for the stories of the Palestinian people?
Yeah, let me give you a bit of background on our history with working within Palestine and with Palestinians. So since October 7th, we've published over 600 videos live from Gaza, captured from Gaza. They've reached over 600 million views. Just an incredible reach in terms of these stories getting out and actually being seen and heard. But we've actually been working within Palestine, across Gaza and the West Bank since 2016. So it's been something that we've been passionate about, and a topic that we've been passionate about for a really, really long time. On October 7th, that really transcended into like what our work is today, and a lot of where our focus is, which translates into the film fest, which I can give more background on. But we've worked with over 50 creators in Gaza today, live from Gaza, capturing their stories and sharing that with our audience. We know that international journalists are not allowed into Gaza, right? That's been shut down, and so our ability to actually work with people, like everything that's being captured is by phones and with phones on the ground in Gaza. And so all the stories that are coming out are captured by citizens on the ground to actually be able to communicate and showcase what's happening. And so our work there is really focused there. And a big part of what we started focusing on was a series called Ahmad Alive, which was about over 30 chapters that we released over about 6 months. And working with Ahmad, who previously was a travel vlogger. But what was ironic about that is Ahmad wasn't able to travel, right? Ahmad can't travel outside of Gaza. He wanted to be a travel vlogger, but could not travel outside of Gaza. On October 7th, he was forced to become a war correspondent, right? And it wasn't a decision, but he was forced to be able to actually tell the story of what's happening in Gaza and what's happening on the ground. And so we followed Ahmad's journey of surviving what is being called a genocide, right? And being able to survive through the genocide. And so we followed him, and he told the story of him over 100 days surviving within Gaza. And so the film fest that we're hosting in a week in Los Angeles on the 18th will showcase the documentary that we've worked with Ahmad to actually be able to showcase that. And so we're showing this in Beverly Hills a week from today. And it's about a 36-minute documentary that showcases Ahmed's story and complete journey.
I just want to reiterate how powerful it is, this idea that traditional media journalists are not allowed into Gaza, into Palestine right now.
Yeah.
And the only way that you are getting these stories with 600 million views, with 50 different storytellers and citizen journalists who you've been collaborating with at Seen and at Seen Palestine is by getting firsthand accounts from your phone. And I just want everyone to just pause for a second and think about that, right? Each of us is literally watching this live right now on our phones, right? Every single one of us has this phone. And this phone has become the only tool for so many people to be able to even share their stories and get them out there, and in a way that you can reach millions of people who otherwise might not have ever even heard about Palestine before, might not have ever even known anything about what was happening in that region or in that part of the world. And this is literally a movement. This is not a moment. This is a movement,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And
100%.
Right. Go ahead.
No, 100%. I mean, this is all of the footage everything that's coming out of Gaza right now is captured by citizens' phones. It's really like those are the stories that are being told. And so we've again published over 600 videos since October 7th. But it's tragic. It's tragic that that's the only way that these stories are being told and being able to be heard. And so our team, we have about a team of a staff of 50 all over the world. We have journalists, video editors, producers, and they're working with people in Gaza to capture and bring these stories to life and share that with the world. And I think, Nikki, one of the things we talk about a lot is I think we've seen a lot of the footage that's come out of Gaza that's been horribly tragic. We also think it's as important to also showcase the hope and showcase this other side of like, that there's and we focus a lot on this of like how do we bring stories of hope and share that with the world, and that's as powerful, and that storytelling needs to actually happen. And so we focus a lot on that too, Nikki, which is like how do we bring stories of hope and share that with the world as well.
And that's exactly what the world needs more of right now. Like, yes, we need to document the tragedies and the trauma that's happening in Palestine, that's happening in places like Sudan, that's happening in places like Congo. It is incredibly important to share that. But at the end of the day, there are little victories, there are small wins. And those are the things that motivate people to continue fighting, to continue to create this more equitable world that we're all striving for. And so I love that it's this balance of not just, these horrible moments, people's houses being bombed, people's livelihoods being shattered right in front of their faces, but also, this is how I made the food that I ate today, or this is how I created electricity in my displacement tent. And, it's like, these are the stories where it's like, hope lives, resiliency lives, like people are literally dying, but the hope lives on. And hopefully with that hope, with that dream of a better tomorrow, we can get the peace, get the ceasefire, get the justice that we so desperately demand for the Palestinian people.
100%. And I think, so Nikki, we've shared this documentary globally so far. We've done these live film festivals. We've done them in South Africa. We did them in the UK. We did it in India. This is the first time we're bringing it to the US. And I'm American, and I could not be more excited to bring this story to the US, where as I've educated, and I will continually always educate myself on this topic, the gap in understanding of what's actually happening there and the history of this issue is massive. And I think that one of the things that I'm most excited about is to actually bring this to the US and get in front of people and really understand and talk about this issue. I think that's a big piece and a big part of what we're trying to do is like how do we educate people and really help them understand what is happening, what is going on. And especially in the US, I just see this big gap, Nikki, of really an understanding of what's happening.
Yes, and I as a fellow American,
yes,
I cannot tell you how critically important it is to bring these conversations to this country and to a place like Los Angeles, of all places, where some of the biggest film festivals in the world happen, where the biggest awards for film and television are given out and distributed. This is such a critical space and place, and it's so intentional. There's no accident that you're coming to Los Angeles, California, having a screening in Beverly Hills. That's not an accident. That is incredibly intentional, and it's exactly what we need in this moment. And I want to build on that just a little, but really quickly, there's somebody in the chat at Hope for Hala. Hope, the number 4, Hala. Hope for Hala is saying, I want to be with Seen Palestine group. I'm in northern Gaza and I have ideas I want to share. So I just want to quickly acknowledge that and say, like, if somebody is trying to get involved with Seen Palestine, what do they do? What does Hope for Hala do in this moment if they're trying to get involved with sharing their story?
First off, thanks for commenting and appreciate you reaching out. So first, message us at Seen Palestine. Or Seen.tv. Message us and how to get in touch with you. I also have your account here, and we'll message you as well, so we can get in touch and understand how we can work together as well. So either message us on Instagram or Palestine at Seen.tv is our email address as well. So please email us as well. That's the way to get in touch with us.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And just for everybody watching right now here on Instagram, if you're not connected to the Seen team yet, you can literally go to the top of your screen. There's a little white arrow in the middle, and you can click on that, and you'll be able to easily follow the Seen TV team who's going live with me right now. And you'll be able to find Seen Palestine on that page as well. So literally on the top of your screen, click that little white arrow, and very easily you'll be able to follow Seen TV and go and find Seen Palestine as well to stay online. Hope for Hala, I see you in the chat. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm so glad we answered your question. And Xan, if you don't mind, I want to get a little bit personal right now, because we talked a little bit about this big gap in understanding, particularly in the United States. Like I said, I'm American, you're American. There's this big gap around knowledge and understanding of what's happening in Palestine and really what's happening in a lot of places around the world. You know, the irony of the United States having one of the strongest passports in the world, having some of the most passport privilege in the world. You know, people from the United States can go to almost any country at any time, visa free, don't need to, show or demonstrate any kind of thing, right, to travel. Unlike our friend Ahmad in Palestine, who wanted to travel and be a travel correspondent, couldn't because of his passport, right? And I think the reality of the United States right now is that for me personally, there's not a lot of people who are, screaming out free Palestine from the rooftops. And I want to be honest, there's not a lot of white American men.
There's not.
Free Palestine. Honestly, Xan, I would love to just get a little personal with you and be like, why is this something that you have chosen to be a part of and something that you are so passionate about? Because you are an example for a lot of other people in the United States who might not share the same sentiments. So I would just love to ask you that if that's okay.
100% okay. I appreciate that question so much. I think if I can be an example, that's my number one goal. And I think what I would also say is that if you don't know about this issue and don't know about this topic, it's okay to start now, right? It's okay to really, really start digging into it and reading and educating yourself and understanding, the history of this since 1948. And I think, Nikki, what I would say is, in my research and trying to understand this issue, it's not complicated. It really, really is not. And so for me, I think it starts at the top of the overall mission of Seen TV, which is really ensuring that how do we build a more empathetic and understanding world, and helping and ensuring that for marginalized communities, especially. And it's something that, for me individually, it's something that I've struggled with throughout my life, and there's different pieces to that in terms of just understanding from a mental health perspective and all these different pieces. And so I think for me, it hits close to home for me personally in terms of how do we enable a more understanding and empathetic world. And so Seen Palestine ties directly into that. As I mentioned, as I educated myself about the issue, it's not complicated. It's so clear in terms of what needs to happen. And so I think being a white male, an American white male, and not seeing um, the support that should be happening coming from our country is disappointing in so many ways. Nikki, I think one example is when I spent the last 6 months in South Africa and seeing how much support there was for Palestine, and even just outside of the U.S. in general, and coming back and not seeing that and having it be really different, really different. It was a huge realization for me of, I think, just how media does protect this story and this narrative, especially in the U.S. And so it was night and day for me. I will say one thing. I have noticed more than ever before an awareness and support for Palestine in the U.S. than I have before. I don't know if you've seen this as well, but that does give me hope, and that does give me confidence. So I do have realized that, but I don't know if you have seen that too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I've seen that as well. And, it's such a shame that we had to wait for the tragedy and devastation of October 7th and everything that has happened afterward, for the word and for Palestine to be on the top of everyone's mind,
yeah,
and to be on the top of everyone's lips. It's such a shame that that is the way that people had to find out about that and had to know about what was happening. But you're absolutely right that now it is a household conversation. It's something that's on the news, maybe not in the way that we always want it to be on the news, but it's on the news and it's on your social media platforms, and we're seeing stories from Palestine that were never being seen before. And I just want to highlight two things that you shared, and I think that the first thing is that I want to just acknowledge and say that this is what allyship looks like. And when people of color in the United States or around the world say that we want allies, like you being here and saying it's never too late for me to learn, and it's never too late for me to get involved and to stand up and be doing this interview and be doing the work that you're doing with Seen Palestine. That's incredibly important. So I just want to make sure I give you your flowers.
thank you, thank you.
For this, because it's incredibly important. And the other thing that you shared is it's never too late to educate yourself. There are so many things happening in the world. The crisis, the genocide in Palestine is one of the things. A similar genocide happening in Sudan, yes. The mining going on in Congo, the colonization of Guam. There are so many things happening in the world, and all it takes is picking up a book, doing a Google search, watching some stories on Seen, right? And this is how we start to educate ourselves on all these issues. So I hope that people watching this or engaging in this conversation aren't feeling overwhelmed. Like, there is a lot to learn, but all it takes is one quick Google search to start that process and start that journey, and don't be afraid to start it.
Nikki, the other thing I would say too is, like, I just felt the responsibility as an American to really contribute to this, and I think it takes one by one, right? And I think generation of this does need to shift, but it like, as a younger generation as well, you and it feels like we do have a responsibility to stand up and as Americans, understanding the U.S. involvement in this issue, right? And as Americans really standing up and saying, this is not okay. I'm not okay with this. I'm not okay with being involved in this, and having the U.S. so involved in this way. And so I would say that as well, right? I think part of it for me is standing up and really saying, like, this is not okay with me, and I'm not okay standing for this. So you hit it on the head, though, in terms of, it is an issue where it's one quick Google search, and within a half an hour, I mean, you're going to really realize just how simple and not complex this issue is. And I think people really, not people, even just media really tries to make it complex. And so anyway, I would encourage everyone to not hold back and really just try to understand the history of this and educate yourself.
Absolutely. And you all bringing the film festival to Los Angeles is one of those teachable moments. It's one of those learning moments where people can come into a safe space and learn more about what's happening in a way that everybody loves and appreciates, which is watching a movie, right? Yes. That's something, you spoke earlier about, human experiences and how we have so much more in common than we have different. And I think we can all agree that most people around the world, no matter your race, age, ethnicity, background, religion. We all like to watch a movie, okay? And this is one of those experiences where you get to go into a movie theater and watch a movie that is intentional, that is thoughtful. And I can say I myself, having gone to one of the screenings in Cape Town, South Africa, which is where we met, Xan.
Yes.
You know, this was an experience that was not only the movie itself was powerful, and we actually had Ahmad there speaking about it afterward, which was, you know, even more emotional and powerful and thoughtful, but the experience was incredibly immersive. There was a lot happening in the theater experience as well that created this really comprehensive understanding of what's happening in Palestine right now. And so, you know, I just want to plug this again for folks who are in Los Angeles. Can you give us all the details about what is happening in LA next Wednesday for the, you know, Seen Palestine Film Festival that's coming here to LA?
Yes. So we have the Seen Palestine Film Festival. We're bringing it to Los Angeles on Wednesday, September 18th. It runs from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. And that's going to be at 8556 Wilshire Boulevard. That is the Fine Arts Theater in Beverly Hills. So if you go to Seen TV's Instagram account, the link in bio, that'll bring you right to reserving tickets, all the information that you need. It's also on Seen Palestine, our Seen Palestine page. So if you go to Seen TV or Seen Palestine, the link in bio will bring you to our Eventbrite. You can purchase tickets. All the proceeds as well, Nikki, really important to call out. All the proceeds, all the profits go to Palestinians. So when we work with people in Gaza, when we work with people in the West Bank, these proceeds all go to working and funding Seen Palestine. So those should be all the details, Nikki. But go to our Instagram, link in bio. Everything, you'll find everything there too.
I, for one, am so excited. I was saying, you know, it was so nice. I had to do it twice. I saw it in Cape Town. I want to see it again here in LA. If anybody is watching this right now and you're going to be in LA next Wednesday, literally 1 week from today, you're going to meet me in person. You're going to meet Xan in person. We will be there for this incredible experience. And just come to learn something new, come to see a perspective that you might not be seeing otherwise. And I would love to talk a little bit more, Xan, about why Ahmad Alive, why this story, why Ahmad's story in particular is so important and so critical to share in theaters and to share on these big global stages. Why Ahmad's story?
I think there's a number of reasons. So one is it really shows and follows Ahmad's journey, even before October 7th, right? It really showcases what his life was like, how October 7th and how this war has changed that. I think it's important to really understand that history. I think more than anything, so we've done obviously everything we do in the stories that we release, everything that we've done in person. Nikki, we had someone attend in Johannesburg who showed up as pro-Israeli and pro-Israeli beliefs and left donating to Seen Palestine, the Seen Palestine cause. And I think if there's anything in terms of what our goal and what we would want to achieve with these conversations and these documentaries and this education is exactly that, is how do we, again, have someone say, I just didn't think about it that way, and really have enable to people to really understand this in a different way. And so I think the in-person aspect of this, Nikki, is so powerful because we can get in a room and you and I can have a conversation. We can have conversations about this. We can educate ourselves. I educate myself. I learn something new every time I go to one of these screenings. And so it's the most rewarding from my perspective to get in a room with people and just have the conversation. And so I think that's what we found so far is everything that we do in terms of like publishing our stories and our videos, it's incredibly rewarding. We've reached, again, over 500 million people. But when we get in these rooms, which are more intimate settings, right? We've sold out theaters of 400 plus people. It's still intimate. You know what I mean? Like we're sitting there, we're having a conversation, and we've just seen how impactful these in-person conversations can be.
And oftentimes, for those of us who spend so much of our lives online, on social media. You know, sure, we're engaging in terms of comments, we're engaging in terms of resharing, but there's nothing like a real life in-person experience
Yes.
where you can talk to someone and have a conversation with someone. And that's one of the things that I think we need more of in the world. You know, there's so much divisiveness because people don't want to sit down and have conversations with one another. People
Yes.
don't want to hear a perspective that's different from theirs. But oftentimes, it's in those moments when we're sitting down having dialogue with someone that we start to realize what we said before, which is that we are so much more similar than we are different. And this is an opportunity and a space for people to come together and have those conversations in community, you know, whether they have the same opinions or not. And I just think
Yes.
that's so special.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it just has been so rewarding to have these conversations, Nikki. So I think that's the biggest piece. If I had to say one thing about these film festivals is like, just come to learn something, come with an open mind, come to understand or show your support, right? If you're already supportive and like that's really what we're trying to generate here with Seen Palestine and some of these film festivals. So yeah, we're excited. I hope people can make it.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing somebody in the chat, Koi Geek, saying, I wish I could be there. Thank you for what you're doing to raise awareness and continue the much needed dialogue. And for those of you who can't be there in person, you can always make a donation, which again, all the proceeds, all the profits are going directly to support Palestinian people and the Palestinian storytellers. I see Bafa123 in the chat saying free Palestine. Yes, Bafa123, we're with you all the way. And Xan, tell me, is it just Los Angeles that the film festival is going to be happening in the United States, this incredible Palestine Film Festival? Are there other places in the US that people should be keeping an eye out for, maybe coming to their cities soon?
We are planning in the middle of planning all of this. If you are in a US city or know someone in the US city who can help us organize, who can help us find a venue, whatever it may be, we're looking to bring this all over the US. Beyond that as well, we're going to be launching and we'll be releasing Ahmad Alive as well. So more broadly, people will have global access to this video, really understanding the story overall. So we'll be also releasing it so people who aren't in these cities can access and really understand the story. But anybody who's in a US city, anybody globally, if you're in a city that you want to bring Ahmad Alive into a screening, if you even want to organize a screening, please reach out to us and we'd love to talk to you. We're in the middle of planning all that, Nikki, which I couldn't be more excited.
I am incredibly excited for that as well. And, you know, you said that you've held screenings of Ahmad Alive in this, you know, Seen Palestine Film Festival in the UK, in South Africa. I think you mentioned India as well.
Yes.
And now we're heading to the United States. So your country could be next. Again, do not hesitate to reach out to the Seen Palestine team. If there is somewhere that you think these documentaries need to be screened, this story needs to be told, again, you can literally go to the top of your screen right now here on this IG Live, click on the little white arrow, go follow Seen TV, go follow Seen Palestine, get involved, keep that energy, because the more stories we're able to tell and the more people we're able to reach, the more inclusive and a more just world we are able to build together. And I just think it's so amazing what the Seen team has been doing, not only for Palestine, but for all the stories that are being told. And, you know, because there's so many stories that we can tell. You know, you have over, you know, 600 videos. It could be 6,000. It could be 6 million.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, and to that point, we since the beginning of Seen TV since 2016, we've published over 5,000 stories, right? So there's just a massive. You mentioned this in the beginning. It's the largest human experience library. That's what we're trying to build. How do we build that human experience library, which I think it's so powerful. If you think about that, what is the largest human experience library in the world, and what does that consist of? We're not even scratching the surface in terms of the types of stories we should be telling, right? And so we're really excited about that aspect. So yes, we've published over 5,000 stories since 2016, which are all again first person human experience libraries. So that's what we're all about.
And talk to us, Xan, what is the future of Seen TV and Seen Palestine? You know, for folks who are following, for folks who are continuing to watch the progress that you all are making,
Yeah.
what's coming up on the horizon? You know, and separate from the film festival we have next week.
Yes.
But what's coming up, and what should people be keeping an eye on and getting excited about?
There's two things. I think long term for Seen TV, Nikki, the way that I would frame this is we are building the most immersive media company in the world. And what that means is we're all experiencing and consuming content on our phones today, right? We're all consuming video content on our phones, and that's how we get our information today. We think that the future actually holds this idea of immersive storytelling, which is spatial computing, which is augmented reality. And what that does, what we believe is that that goal of ours, that mission of ours to create a more empathetic and understanding world. If you're watching on a phone today and you're watching Ahmed's story, let's say, imagine being in the middle of Ahmed's story and actually living that and walking through Gaza with Ahmed and the level of empathy that can generate over a phone. And so we just think that this idea of immersive media is going to amplify that ability to build empathy and understanding by 1,000,000x. And so we're really excited of building the tech now to be able to bring and develop and tell stories in the future and the way people are going to be consuming media in the future. So way in the future, which is really what we're building today, is a focus there. For Seen Palestine in terms of the future, I think the important thing to call out here is at some point, Nikki, right, the genocide is going to end, right? There will be a ceasefire at some point, right? What we're trying to do is we want to keep telling stories even after the occupation ends, right? We want to keep telling Palestinian stories way beyond that. And so that's kind of our mindset is we want to tell stories today to be able to educate people, to actually surface stories and the stories that need to be seen and heard. But our intent and our goal is to build Seen Palestine into something that lives on forever, that tells stories beyond the occupation. So that's our mindset at the highest level, Nikki.
And that's that hope,
Yes.
right? That's that hope right there, right? It's that the genocide will end, the occupation will end, Palestine will be free, and the stories of the Palestinians are going to be told long after this horrific moment in our collective history. And that's just something that's so beautiful and so powerful. And we look forward to Seen TV and Seen Palestine being at the forefront of sharing those stories. So thank you, so much for hopping on this live with me today. Thank you for continuing to amplify the stories of the Palestinian people and people across the globe whose stories have not been told before or who have been overlooked before. Shout out to Yusuf in the chat. Amazing session. Yes, Yusuf. So grateful to you for your leadership here. And then I just want to give you the chance before we wrap up here, any closing thoughts, anything final that you'd like to share before we wrap up our conversation.
One call out is just a thank you to our team. Our team is the most passionate group of individuals. They put their heart and soul into enabling Palestinian stories to be heard and to be seen. And so I just want a huge thank you to our team. We are also hiring for Seen Palestine. We are looking for amazing people who are passionate about this issue as well. So if you know anyone who is an amazing person for Seen Palestine, please reach out to me, reach out to Yusuf, reach out to Seen TV. But I just want to give a shout out to our team working night and day endlessly to help Palestinians be seen.
Shout out to the entire Seen TV team, the Seen Palestine team. If that's you who Xan is speaking to right now, if that's you who's ready to join the team, join the struggle for collective Palestinian liberation, you better sign up right now and head over to Seen Palestine and get involved. As one American to another, it's incredibly exciting and empowering to be having a conversation with a fellow American about a free Palestine. This is something that unfortunately does not happen often enough, but we are setting a precedent here.
We are.
We'll continue.
Nikki, I'm so excited to see you next week. I can't wait to see you. Thank you so much for having us on. Thank you for your support. We really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. I will be there until this genocide ends. 100%. And remember, everybody, if you are in Los Angeles, a week from today, Wednesday, September 18th, the Seen Palestine Film Festival is coming to the Fine Arts Theater in Beverly Hills from 7 to 10 p.m. Tickets are available online. You can buy them right now. You can go to the Seen Palestine link in bio. You'll be able to find the tickets and get involved. Even if you're not in LA, you can still donate via that link to supporting Palestinian liberation and to the continued storytelling of these incredible people like Ahmad, like Bisan, and like these incredible people across Palestine right now. And even if you don't want to work for Seen Palestine and you can't join the film festival, you can reshare a post, you can reshare a story, you can save stories, you know, continue to keep the energy, keep talking about Palestine, because when we keep talking about it and when we keep sharing these stories with the world, this is how we change hearts and minds and perceptions. And Xan, I know you have absolutely done that with some of the folks on this call today. So thank you so much. It's been so beautiful.
Thank you so much, Nikki. So great to see you. See you next week.
Absolutely. See you next week. Thank you, everybody. This has been NIKKI BANZ Live featuring Xan Oser, the COO of Seen TV, talking about Seen Palestine with your girl, NIKKI BANZ. And thank you. We'll see you next Wednesday at the Seen Palestine Film Festival. Bye, everybody.